Hello everyone, we are reading Jane Eyre. We are indeed on chapter 15. These Roman numerals keep getting me. Last time I started out saying that we were on chapter 9 and we were really on chapter 14, which is really doesn't even make any sense at all. But surprise, we are on chapter 15 as it says right there, and we're going to read. And boy, what a topsy-turvy little conversation we had with Jane Eyre and Mr. Rochester last chapter. He's trying to get her to break loose, and she's just like, yeah, you're not really making any sense. And, you said this, and I'm just saying it back to you and using your own logic. It doesn't even make any sense what you're saying. No, but nothing makes any sense. The misunderstanding trope. Maybe, perhaps. Or just a man trying to get to know a woman that doesn't know anything about women. Doesn't know the way into her heart, I'll tell you that. Chapter 15. Mr. Rochester did, on a future occasion, explain it. Oh, yeah, I'm super confused about who Adèle is to Mr. Rochester. He said, "She charmed my English gold out of my British breeches pocket. I have been green too, Miss Eyre. Ah, green grass. Not a more vernal tint freshens you now than once freshened me. My spring is gone, however, but it has left me that French floweret on my hands, which in some moods I would fain to be rid of, not valuing now the root whence it sprang, having found that it was a sort of which nothing but gold dust could manure. I have but half a liking to the blossom, especially when it looks so artificial as just now. I keep it and rear it rather on the Roman Catholic principle of expiating numerous sins, great or small, by one good work." And then he says, I'll explain all this someday. And now it says, chapter 15, Mr. Rochester did, on a future occasion, explain it. It was one afternoon when he chanced to meet me and Adèle in the grounds, and while she played with Pilot in her shuttlecock, he asked me to walk up and down a long beech avenue within sight of her. He then said that she was the daughter of a French opera dancer, Céline Varens, towards whom he had once cherished what he called a grande passion. Grande passion. The passion Céline had professed to return with even superior ardour. He thought himself her idol, ugly as he was. He believed, as he said, that she preferred his taille d'athlète to the elegance of the Apollo Belvedere. Tall athletic? Apollo Belvedere, athletic build. The Apollo Belvedere is a Roman copy of a late 14th century Greek bronze statue housed in the Vatican. Its proportions were understood to represent the ideal of classical male beauty. In Jane Eyre, St. John Rivers represents this type. Okay. And Miss Eyre, so much was I flattered by this preference of the Gaelic sylph for her British gnome, that I installed her in an hotel, gave her a complete establishment of servants and carriages, cashmeres, diamonds, dentils, etc. Are those like false teeth? Gold. Shawls of fine wool. Dentils are clothes bordered with delicate lace. Oh, I thought it had something to do with teeth. Dentelles, etc. In short, I began the process of ruining myself in the received style, like any other spoony Todd, one who makes an amorous fool of himself. A fool in love is a spoony. I had not, it seems, the originality to chalk out a new road to shame and destruction, but trod the old track with stupid exactness, not to deviate an inch from the beaten centre. I had, as I deserved to have, the fate of all other spoonies. Happening to call one evening, when Céline did not expect me, I found her out. But it was a warm night, and I was tired with strolling through Paris, so I sat down in her boudoir, happy to breathe the air consecrated so lately by her presence. No, I exaggerate. I never thought there was any consecrating virtue about her. It was rather a sort of pastille perfume she had left, scent of musk and amber, than an odour of sanctity. Was she cheating on him, or what? Pastille is an aromatic roll made to be burnt as perfume. Rochester contrasts the sacred incense with profane and vulgar cosmetic perfume. For its medical uses, see chapter 19 for note 20. Wow. He exaggerates the perfume she had left as odor of sanctity. Okay, I was just beginning to stifle with the fumes of conservatory flowers and sprinkled essences when I bethought myself to open the window and step out on the balcony. It was moonlight and gaslight besides, and very still and serene. The balcony was furnished with a chair or two. I sat down and took out a cigar. I will take one now, if you will excuse me. Here ensued a pause, filled up by the producing and lighting of a cigar, having placed it to his lips and breathed a trail of Havana incense. On the freezing and sunless air he went on. I liked bonbons, too, in those days, Miss Eyre, and I was crocant, crunching. Crocant chocolate, confits, and smoking alternately, watching meantime the equipages that rolled along the fashionable street towards the neighbouring opera house, when in an elegant closed carriage drawn by a beautiful pair of English horses and distinctly seen in the brilliant city night, I recognized the voiter I had given Celine. She was returning. Of course, my heart thumped with impatience against the iron rails I leant on. The carriage stopped as I had expected, and at the hotel door. My flame, that is the very word for an opera innamorata, alighted. Though muffled in a cloak, an unnecessary encumbrance, by the by, on so warm a June evening, I knew her instantly by her little foot, seen peeping from the skirt of a dress, as she skipped from the carriage step. Bending over the balcony, I was about to murmur, Mon ange, mon ange. God, so hard. My angel. In a tone, of course, which should be audible to the ear of love alone, when a figure jumped from the carriage after her, cloaked also. But that was a spurred heel which had rung on the pavement, and that was a hatted head which now passed under the arched porte-cochere of the hotel. Carriage entrance. You never felt jealousy, did you, Miss Eyre? Of course not. I need not ask you, because you never felt love. You have both sentiments yet to experience. Your soul sleeps. The shock is yet to be given which shall waken it. You think all existent lapse in as quiet a flow as that in your youth has hitherto slid away. Floating on with closed eyes and muffled ears, you neither see the rocks bristling not far off in the bed of the flood, nor hear the breakers boil at their base. But I tell you, and you may mark my words, you will come some day to a craggy pass in the channel where the whole of life's stream will be broken up into a whirl and tumult, foam and noise. Either you will be dashed to atoms on crag points, or lifted up and borne on by some master wave into a calmer current, as I am now. I like this day. I like that sky of steel. I like the sternness and the stillness of the world under this frost. I like Thornfield, its antiquity, its retirement, its old crow trees and thorn trees, its grey facade and lines of dark windows reflecting that metal welkin. Is this her talking? Metal welkin is grey sky. And archaism and poeticism. Is this her talking? I can't tell. And yet how long have I abhorred the very thought of it, shunned it like a great plague house. How I do still abhor. He ground his teeth and was silent. He arrested his step and struck his boot against the hard ground. Some hated thought seemed to have him in its grip, and to hold him so tightly that he could not advance. We were ascending the avenue when he thus paused. The hall was before us. Lifting his eye to his battlements, he cast over them a glare such as I never saw before or since. Pain, shame, ire, impatience, disgust, detestation seemed momentarily to hold a quiver conflict in the large pupil dilating under his ebon eyebrow. Wild was the wrestle which should be paramount, but another feeling rose and triumphed. Something hard and cynical, self-willed and resolute. It settled his passions and petrified his countenance. He went on. My table's all squeaky today. During the moment I was silent, Miss Eyre, I was arranging a point with my destiny. She stood there, by that beech trunk, a hag like one of those who appeared to Macbeth on the heath of Fours. You like Thornfield, she said, lifting her finger, and then she wrote in the air a memento, which ran in lurid hieroglyphics all along the house front, between the upper and lower row of windows. Like it if you can, like it if you dare. I will like it, said I dare like it, and, he subjoined moodily, I will keep my word. I will break obstacles to happiness, to goodness. Yes, goodness. I wish to be a better man than I have been, than I am, as Job's Leviathan broke the spear, the dart, and the habergeon. What? In the book of Job, Leviathan is a vast aquatic beast, which Christian commentators interpret as Satan, serpent. Rochester's boast, therefore, ironically condemns himself out of his own mouth. A habergeon, a coat of mail, also carries the meaning of a coat of penance. As Job's Leviathan broke the spear, the dart, and the habergeon, hindrances which others count as iron and brass, I will esteem but straw and rotten wood. Adèle here ran before him with her shuttlecock. Away, he said harshly. Keep at a distance, child, or go in to Sophie. Continuing then to pursue his walk in silence, I ventured to recall him to the point whence he had abruptly diverged. Did you leave the balcony, sir? I asked, when Mademoiselle Varens entered. I almost expected a rebuff for this hardly well-timed question, but on the contrary, waking out of his scowling abstraction, he turned his eyes toward me, and the shade seemed to clear off his brow. Oh, I had forgotten, Celine. Well, to resume, when I saw my charmer thus come in, accompanied by a cavalier, I seemed to hear a hiss and the green snake of jealousy rising on undulating coils from the moonlit balcony, gliding within my waistcoat, and ate its way in 2 minutes to my heart's core. Strange, he exclaimed, suddenly starting again from the point. Strange that I should choose you for the confidant of all this, young lady. Passing strange that you should listen to me quietly, as if it were the most usual thing in the world for a man like me to tell stories of his opera mistresses to quaint, unexperienced girls like you. Okay. Snake coils. The wording recalls not only the green-eyed monster invoked by Iago, Shakespeare's Othello, but also Milton's description of the serpent in P.L. as towering fold above fold, a surging maze. Passing strange is skewed reference to Othello, where Othello recalls wooing Desdemona through exotic stories of his adventures. She swore in faith 'twas strange, 'twas passing strange. 'Twas pitiful, 'twas wonderful pitiful. Okay. Lots of Othello and lots of Macbeth. Oh, I thought for sure I'd get into Shakespeare, but Alas. Okay. Something about snakes and the color green and where are we? Hoyles and kissing. Okay, strange that I would tell you and you would listen quietly. Okay, but the last singularity explains the first, as I intimated once before. You, with your gravity, considerateness, and caution, were made to be the recipient of secrets. Besides, I know what sort of a mind I have placed in communication with my own. I know it is one not liable to take infection. It is a peculiar mind. It is a unique one. Haply I do not mean to harm it, but if I did, it would not take harm from me. The more you and I converse, the better, for while I cannot blight you, you may refresh me. After this digression, he proceeded. I remained in the balcony. They will come to her boudoir, no doubt, thought I. Let me prepare an ambush. So putting my hand in through the open window, I drew the curtain over it, leaving only an opening through which I could take observations. Then I closed the casement, all but a chink, just wide enough to furnish an outlet to lovers' whispered vows. Then I stole back to my chair, and as I resumed in it, the pair came in. I was quickly at the aperture. Celine's chambermaid entered, lit a lamp, left it on the table, and withdrew. The couple were thus revealed to me clearly. Both removed their cloaks, and there was the Varens, shining in satin and jewels. My gifts, of course. And there was her companion in an officer's uniform, and I knew him from a young roux of Vicomte. Vicomte. A brainless and vicious youth who I had sometimes met in society and had never thought of hating because I despised him so absolutely. On recognizing him, the fang of the snake, jealousy, was instantly broken, because at the same moment my love for Celine sank under an extinguisher. Extinguisher. His love is likened to a candle flame starved of oxygen under a snuffer. I feel like I could have gathered that without the note in the back. A woman who could betray me for such a rival was not worth contending for. She deserved only scorn. Less, however, than I, who had been her dupe. They began to talk. Their conversation eased me completely. Frivolous, mercenary, heartless, and senseless, it was rather calculated to weary than enrage a listener. A card of mine lay on the table. This being perceived, brought my name under discussion. Neither of them possessed energy or wit to belabor me soundly, but they insulted me as coarsely as they could in their little way, especially Celine, who even waxed rather brilliant on my personal defects. Deformities, she termed them. Now it had been her custom to launch out into fervent admiration of what she called my male beauty, is what I'm going to say that. Evil beauty. Whoa, the word evil in French is M-A-L-E with a little hat on top of A. Beauty, mal, like bad. Oh, like mal is bad in Spanish. Oh, evil. But evil in French looks like the word male in English. And I didn't realize the connection between mal, which means bad in Spanish, and male. Okay, evil beauty, wherein she differed diametrically from you, who told me point blank at the second interview that you did not think me handsome. The contrast struck me at the time, and Adèle here came running up again. Monsieur, John has just been to say that your agent has called and wishes to see you. Wow, Adèle said that? I thought she only did, like, broken English. Jane Eyre is a pretty good teacher, huh? In that case I must abridge. Opening the window, I walked in upon them, liberated Celine from my protection, gave her notice to vacate her hotel, offered her a purse for immediate exigencies, disregarded screams, hysterics, prayers, protestations, convulsions, made an appointment with the Vicomte for a meeting at the Bois de Boulogne. It's terrible. It's awful. I just don't understand. Next morning, I had the pleasure of encountering him. Left a bullet in one of his poor etiolated arms, feeble as the wing of a chicken in the pip, and then thought I had done with the whole crew. But unluckily, the Varens, 6 months before, had given me this fillet Adèle, Adèle, who she affirmed was my daughter, and perhaps she may be, though I see no proofs of such grim paternity written in her countenance. Pilot is more like me than she. Some years after I had broken with the mother, she abandoned her child and ran away to Italy with a musician or singer. I acknowledge no natural claim on Adèle, part to be supported by me, nor do I acknowledge any, for I am not her father. But hearing that she was quite destitute, E''en took the poor thing out of the slime and mud of Paris and transplanted it here. Let me see what that freaking says in the back. There's so much to look up in the back. In W.H., Mr. Earnshaw tells his family of the foundling Heathcliff. You must take it as a gift of God, though it's a dark, almost as if it came from the devil. Devil child. Blood orphans and devil child. Mrs. Fairfax planned to grow up clean in the wholesome soil of an English country garden. Classic Englishmen. That's so funny. Mrs. Fairfax found you to train it. He's calling this child an it. But now you know it is the illegitimate offspring of a French opera girl. You will perhaps think differently of your post and protégé. You will be coming to me some day and notice that you have found another place, that you beg me to look out for a new governess, etc., eh? No, Adèle is not answerable for either her mother's faults or yours. I have regard for her, and now that I know she is, in a sense, parentless, forsaken by her mother and disowned by you, sir, I shall cling closer to her than before. How could I possibly prefer the spoiled pet of a wealthy family, who would hate a governess as a nuisance, to a lonely little orphan who leans towards her as a friend? Oh, that is the light in which you view it. Well, I must go in now, and you too, it darkens. But I stayed out a few minutes longer with Adèle and Pilot, ran a race with her, and played a game of battledore and shuttlecock. When we went in, I had removed her bonnet and coat. I took her on my knee, kept her there an hour, allowing her to prattle as she liked, not rebuking even some little freedoms and trivialities into which she was apt to stray when much noticed, and which betrayed in her a superficiality of character inherited probably from her mother, hardly congenial to an English mind. Still, she had her merits, and I was disposed to appreciate all that was good in her to the utmost. I sought in her countenance and features a likeness to Mr. Rochester, but found none. No trait, no turn of expression announced relationship. It was a pity. If she could but have been proved to resemble him, he would have thought more of her. It was not till after I had withdrawn to my own chamber for the night that I steadily reviewed the tale Mr. Rochester told me. As he had said, there was probably nothing at all extraordinary in the substance of the narrative itself. A wealthy Englishman's passion for a French dancer, and a treachery to him, were everyday matters enough, no doubt, in society. But there was something decidedly strange in the paroxysm of emotion which had suddenly seized him, and when he was in the act of expressing the present contentment of his mood, and his newly revived pleasure in the old hall and its environs. I meditated wonderingly on this incident, but gradually quitting it, as I found it for the present inexplicable, I turned to the consideration of my master's manner to myself. The confidence he had thought fit to repose in me seemed a tribute to my discretion. I regarded and accepted it as such. His deportment had now, for some weeks, been more uniform towards me than at the first. I never seemed in his way. He did not take fits of chilling hotter. When he met me unexpectedly, the encounter seemed welcome. He had always a word and sometimes a smile for me, When summoned by formal invitation to his presence, I was honoured by a cordiality of reception that made me feel I really possessed the power to amuse him, and that these evening conferences were sought as much for his pleasure as for my benefit. I indeed talked comparatively little, but I heard him talk with relish. It was his nature to be communicative. He liked to open to a mind unacquainted with the world glimpses of scenes and ways. I do not mean its corrupt scenes and wicked ways, but such as derived their interest from the great scale on which they were acted, and the strange novelty by which they were characterized. And I had a keen delight in receiving the new ideas he offered, in imagining the new pictures he portrayed, and following him in thought through the new regions he disclosed, never startled or troubled by one noxious illusion. Yeah, she's definitely more of like a quiet observer than, well, she's always been an observer. But I remember when she first, R.I.P. Helen Burns, when she first met Helen Burns, she was asking her all these questions. I thought she would be like a little bit more inquisitive with Mr. Rochester, but she's just like, you talk. The ease of his manner freed me from painful restraint. The friendly frankness, and his manner freed me, his friendly frankness, as correct as cordial, with which he treated me, drew me to him. I felt at times as if he were my relation rather than my master, yet he was imperious sometimes still, but I did not mind that. I saw it was his way. Just let people be them. That's really nice. So happy, so gratified did I become with this new interest added to life, that I ceased to pine after kindred. My thin crescent destiny seemed to enlarge. The blanks of existence were filled up. The usage includes the technical meaning of the unprinted leaf of a book. The unprinted leaf of a book. The blanks of existence were filled up. Oh, and now they're filled up. Okay. My bodily health improved. I gathered flesh and strength. That's nice. And was Mr. Rochester now ugly in my eyes? No, reader. Gratitude and many associations, all pleasurable and genial, made his face the object I best liked to see. His presence in a room was more cheering than the brightest fire. Yet I had not forgotten his faults. Indeed, I could not, for he brought them frequently before me. You frequently bring your faults before me. Cut it out. He was proud, sardonic. Why is that in the back? Sardonic. His portrait of Rochester owes a debt to Thomas More's biography of Byron, the works of Lord Byron with his letters and journals and his life. A work devoured by the Bronte children and youth, the description also owes much to Byron's own heroes, although Rochester's moodiness is only superficially unaccountable, since Jane is not familiar with his secret source of guilt and grief. Secrets. Okay, he was proud, sardonic, harsh to inferiority of every description. In my secret soul, I knew that his great kindness to me was balanced by unjust severity to many others. He was moody, too. Alistair Moody. Unaccountably so. I more than once, when sent to read to him. She's sent for to read to him? Can he not read? Found him sitting in his library alone, with his head bent on his folded arms, and when he looked up, a morose, almost malignant scowl blackened his features. But I believed that his moodiness, his harshness, and his former faults of morality, I say former, for now he seemed corrected of all of them, had their source in some cruel cross of fate. I believed he was naturally a man of better tendencies, higher principles, and purer tastes than such as circumstances had developed, educated, instilled, or destiny encouraged. I thought there were excellent materials in him, though for the present they hung together somewhat spoiled and tangled. I cannot deny that I grieved for his grief, whatever that was, and would have given much to assuage it. Though I had now extinguished my candle and was laid down in bed, I could not sleep for thinking of his look when he paused in the avenue, and told of how his destiny had risen up before him, and dared him to be happy at Thornfield. Why not? I asked myself. What alienates him from the house? Will he leave it again soon? Mrs. Fairfax said he seldom stayed here longer than a fortnight at a time, and he has now been resident 8 weeks. If he does go, the change will be doleful. Suppose he should be absent spring, summer, and autumn. How joyless sunshine and fine days will seem. I hardly know whether I had slept or not after this musing. At any rate, I started wide awake on hearing a vague murmur, peculiar and lugubrious. I've never seen that word. Like I've never seen it. And it reminds me of like the word booger or something. Lugubrious? Lugubrious. Looking or sounding sad and dismal?
Lugubrious.
Lugubrious. What is English? How did that even come about? Lugubrious? Sad and dismal. Oh my gosh, here comes the noises again. Peculiar and lugubrious, which sounded, I thought, just above me. I started awake hearing a vague murmur, peculiar and lugubrious, which sounded, I thought, just above me. I wished I had kept my candle burning. The night was drearily dark. My spirits were depressed. I rose and sat up in bed listening. The sound was hushed. I tried again to sleep, but my heart beat anxiously. My inward tranquillity was broken. The clock, far down in the hall, struck 2. Just then it seemed my chamber door was touched, as if fingers had swept the panels and groping away along the dark gallery outside. I said, "Who is there?" Nothing answered. I was tilled with fear. All at once I remembered that it might be Pilot, who, when the kitchen door chanced to be left open, not unfrequently found his way up to the threshold of Mr. Rochester's chamber. I had seen him lying there myself in the mornings. The idea calmed me somewhat. I lay down. Silence composes the nerves. She learned that, standing all by herself, nobody talking to her at Lowood, huh? If it works, it works. And as an unbroken hush now reigned again through the whole house, I began to feel the return of slumber. But it was not fated that I should sleep that night. A dream had scarcely approached my ear when it fled affrighted, scared by a marrow-freezing incident enough. This was a demonic laugh, low, suppressed, and deep, uttered, as it seemed, at the very keyhole of my chamber door. The head of my bed was near the door, and I thought at first the goblin laughter stood at my bedside, or rather crouched by my pillow. But I rose, looked around, and could see nothing, while as I still gazed the unnatural sound was reiterated, and I knew it came from behind the panels. My first impulse was to rise and fasten the bolts, but my next again to cry out, "Who is there?" Something gurgled and moaned. Ere long, steps retreated up the gallery towards the 3rd-story staircase. A door had lately been made to shut in that staircase. I heard it open and close, and all was still. Was that Gracepool? And is she possessed with a devil? Thought I. Impossible now to remain longer by myself. I must go to Mrs. Fairfax. I hurried on my frock and shawl. I withdrew the bolt and opened the door with a trembling hand. There was a candle burning just outside on the matting in the gallery. I was surprised at this circumstance, but still more I was amazed to perceive the air quite dim, as if filled with smoke. And while looking to the right hand and left to find whence these blue wreaths issued, I became farther aware of a strong smell of burning. Something creaked. It was a door ajar, and that door was Mr. Rochester's, and the smoke rushed in a cloud from thence. I thought no more of Mrs. Fairfax. I thought no more of Gracepool, or the laugh. In an instant I was within the chamber. Tongues of flames darted round the bed. The curtains were on fire. In the midst of a blaze and vapour, Mr. Rochester lay stretched motionless in a deep sleep. "Wake, wake!" I cried. I shook him, but he only murmured and turned. The smoke had stupefied him. Not a moment could be lost. The very sheets were kindling. I rushed to his basin and ewer. Fortunately, one was wide and the other deep, and both were filled with water. I heaved them up, deluged the bed and its occupants, flew back to my own room, brought my own water jug, baptized the couch afresh, and by God's aid succeeded in extinguishing the flames which were devouring it. The hiss of the quenched element. The hiss of the quenched element. That's beautiful. The breakage of a pitcher which I flung from my hand when I had emptied it, and above all, the splash of the shower bath I had liberally bestowed roused Mr. Rochester at last. Though it was now dark, I knew he was awake, because I heard him fulminating strange anathemas, and finding himself lying in a pool of water. "Is there a flood?" he cried. "No, sir," I answered, "but there was a bit of fire. Get up, do. You are quenched now. I will fetch you a candle." "In the name of all the elves in Christendom, is that Jane Eyre?" he demanded. "What have you done with me? Witch! Sorceress! Who is in the room besides you? Have you plotted to drown me?" Who is in the room besides you? "I will fetch you a candle, sir, and in heaven's name get up. Somebody has plotted something. You cannot too soon find out who and what it was." "There, I am up now, but at your peril you fetch a candle yet. Wait 2 minutes till I get into some dry garments, if any dry there be. Yes, here's my dressing gown. Now run!" I did run. I brought the candle, which still remained in the gallery. He took it from my hand, held it up, and surveyed the bed, all blackened and scorched, the sheets drenched, the carpet round swimming in water. Mold remediation coming soon. "What is it? And who did it?" he asked. I briefly related to him what had transpired, the strange laugh I had heard in the gallery, the step ascending to the third story, the smoke, the smell of fire which had conducted me to his room, in what state I had found matters there, and how I had deluged him with all the water I could lay hands on. He listened very gravely. His face, as I went on, expressed more concern than astonishment. He did not immediately speak when I had concluded. "Shall I call Mrs. Fairfax?" I asked. "Mrs. Fairfax? No, what the deuce would you call her for? What can she do? Let her sleep unmolested." "Then I will fetch Lee and wake John and his wife." "Not at all. Just be still. You have a shawl on. If you're not warm enough, you may take my cloak yonder, wrap it about you, and sit down in the armchair. There, I will pull it on. Now place your feet on the stool to keep them out of the wet. I'm going to leave you a few minutes. I shall take the candle. Remain where you are till I return. Be as still as a mouse. I must pay a visit to the third story. Don't move, remember, or call anyone." What is this? He went. I watched the light withdraw. He passed up the gallery very softly, unclosed the staircase door with as little noise as possible, shut it after him, and the last ray vanished. I was left in total darkness. I listened for some noise, but heard nothing. A very long time elapsed. I grew weary. It was cold in spite of the cloak, and then I did not see the use of staying, as I was not to rouse the house. I was on the point of risking Mr. Rochester's displeasure by obeying his orders, when the light once more gleamed dimly on the gallery wall, and I heard his unshod feet tread the matting. I hope that is he, thought I, and not something worse. He re-entered, pale and very gloomy. "I have found it all out," said he, setting his candle down on the washstand. "It is as what I thought. It is as I thought." "How, sir?" He made no reply, but stood with his arms folded, looking at the ground. At the end of a few minutes, he inquired, in rather a peculiar tone, "I forgot whether you said you saw anything when you opened your chamber door." "No, sir, only the candlestick on the ground." "But you heard an odd laugh. You have heard that laugh before, I should think, or something like it." "Yes, sir, there is a woman who sews here called Grace Poole. She laughs in that way. She is a singular person." "Just so. Grace Poole, you have guessed it. She is, as you say, singular, very... Yet, well, I shall reflect on the subject. Meantime, I am glad you are the only person besides myself acquainted with the precise details of tonight's incident. You are no talking fool. Say nothing about it. I will account for this state of affairs," pointing to the bed, "and now return to your own room. I shall do very well on the sofa in the library for the rest of the night." It is near 4. In 2 hours the servants will be up. Good night then, sir, said I, departing. He seemed surprised, very inconsistently so, as he had just told me to go. What? He exclaimed. You are quitting me already, and in that way? You said I might go, sir. But not without taking leave, not without a word or two of an acknowledgment and goodwill, not, in short, in that brief, dry fashion. Why, you have saved my life, snatched me from a horrible and excruciating death, and you walk past me as if we were mutual strangers. At least shake hands. He held out his hand. I gave him mine. He took it first in one, and then both in his own. You have saved my life. I have a pleasure in owing you so immense a debt. I cannot say more. Nothing else that has being would have been tolerable to me in the character of a creditor for such an obligation, but you, it is different. I feel your benefit, no burden, Jane. He paused, gazed at me. Words almost visible trembled on his lips, but his voice was checked. Good night again, sir. There is no debt, benefit, burden, obligation in the case. I knew, he continued, you would do me good in some way, at some time. I saw it in your eyes when I first beheld you. That expression and smile did not— Again he stopped. Did not, he proceeded hastily, strike delight to my very inmost heart for doing. People talk of natural sympathies. I have heard of good genii. There are grains of truth in the wildest fable. My cherished preserver, good night. Strange energy was in his voice, strange fire in his look. I am glad I happened to be awake, I said, and then I was going. What, you will go? I am cold, sir. Cold? Yes, and standing in a pool. Go, then, Jane, go. But he still retained my hand, and I could not free it. I bethought myself an expedient. I think I hear Mrs. Fairfax move, sir, said I. Well, leave me. He relaxed his fingers, and I was gone. I regained my couch, but never thought of sleep. Till morning dawned, I tossed on a buoyant but unquiet sea, where billows of trouble rolled under surges of joy. I thought sometimes I saw beyond its wild waters a shore sweet as hills of Beulah. There's a lot of water imagery in this book, and I like it a lot. Isaiah's prophecies, thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, and thy land shall be called Beulah. The Lord delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married. Beulah in Hebrew means married. Charlotte Bronte draws on Bunyan's PP, where the land of Beulah lies beyond the valley of the shadow of death, and also of the reach of giant despair, and out of sight of doubting castle. In this land, the contract between the bride and the bridegroom was renewed. Beulah. A Beulah. And now and then a freshening gale, wakened by hope, bore my spirit triumphantly towards the bourne. But I could not reach it, even in fancy. A counteracting breeze blew off land, and continually drove me back. Sense would resist delirium. Judgment would warn passion. Too feverish to rest, I rose as soon as the day dawned. Wow. That was really intense and crazy and spooky ooky. He didn't really give her a good explanation of what it all was. But he did say, oh yeah, you know about Grace Poole. It was definitely Grace Poole. She sleepwalks. Okay. Wow. I wish it were thundering outside. Take care, you all, and happy reading, and ta-ta. Join me next time for chapter 16, I believe. I'm going to get the Roman numerals. Chapter 16. Jane Eyre. Ta-ta.